1 second.
Where my chewing gum went. I know I put chewing gum in here somewhere.
Guess what? You say that to a bunch of high schoolers in here. Guess what book they're going to check out?
Is my mic on? There we are. All right. Thank you for joining us this evening. Sorry for the delay. We had a extra bit of work in our closed session for personnel. At this time, I would like to reconvene the meeting of the Williamsburg-James City County School Board. And as we do, if we could have a motion to certify closed session.
I certify that to the best of each member's knowledge, the Williamsburg-James City County School Board, while in closed session, discussed only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements as stated in Virginia law, and that only such public matters were identified in the motion convening closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered.
Thank you, Ms. Hundley. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Donner. Any discussion on that? Move right along. Ms. Zoller.
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mrs. Ortego.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. And is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Donner. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hundley. Any discussion on our agenda? Ms. Zoller.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mrs. Ortego.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. Okay. We have a lot of recognitions this evening. Before we get to them, I'm going to ask, forgive me, I wrote these down. Is it Will, Nathan, and Peyton, the captains of the Jamestown soccer team? Did I get those names right? Would you join us to the front and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Everybody rise, please. They moved it.
You got it? No, go. All right. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. Dr. Herron, we'll turn it over to you for superintendent report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The last 2 weeks have been marked by recognizing the journey ahead for those leaving WJCC schools. Last Tuesday, we honored our retirees. For more than 930 combined years, these professionals serve students, families, and our community. No matter their position, they dedicated themselves to elevating WJCC schools beyond excellence, and we couldn't be more grateful. Thank you again for your service. The week before, we celebrated the WJCC school class of 2023. With more than 900 graduates at Warhill, Jamestown, and Lafayette High School, we wish them our very best wishes as they head on to 2- and 4-year colleges, trades-based programs, careers, and the military. Congratulations, graduates. With summer officially underway, we wish our families, staff, and community a fun, rejuvenating, and safe summer. Thank you for an incredible year of learning and growing. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That concludes my announcements for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Herron. Any board members have a report to offer this evening? Okay, we're going to move right along to our Students and staff recognitions on the evening. If I can ask Ms. Hummel, would you join me down front? Sure. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Tonight we are excited to honor several individuals and teams for outstanding accomplishments. While some of our honorees couldn't make it tonight, we want to recognize everyone who has earned these accomplishments. Therefore, I ask that you to please hold your applause until a full group is called forward. First, I would like to begin with War Hill High School. Student athletes, as I call your name, please come forward. For the state champion 4x400 meter relay team, Josh Martin, Elijah Epps, Aiden Stewart, Leo Davis. Leo Davis is also the state champion in the 800 meter. In addition to being state champions, the War Hill 4x400 team and Leo Davis in the 800 meter were both district and regional champions, and both went undefeated during the outdoor track season. Congratulations. Next, we have several accomplishments from Jamestown High School. We'll begin with the state champion boys soccer team. Though the whole team couldn't join us this evening, we want to recognize all of our student athletes. Thank you for holding your applause until the end. Please come forward as I call your name. Vincent Ogbebo, Camden Anderson Taman, Joshua Brittle, Patrick Buckley, Adam Carlson, Zachary Carter, Max Cooper, Jake Davis, Samuel Forrester, Jake Forrester, Jason Franzone, Andrew Henry, Hunter House, Nicholas Lauber, Ethan Lukes, Aaron Nemo, Caleb Nixon, Noah Patrinicola, Luke Pelletier, Nathan Plant, Nicholas Robertson, Andrew Saunders, Peyton Smith, William Sneed, James Sneed, Nathan Stutt, Kevin Swain, and Stephen Williams. Congratulations to the boys soccer team on their district championship, earning runner-up at regionals and state championship title. And a special shout out to Max Cooper, VHSL Class 4 Player of the Year. Next, I'd like to invite Jamestown's state championship girls tennis team forward. Please come forward as your name is called, and again, please continue to hold your applause until the whole team has been called. Julia Clark, Lauren Kolpetzer, Emily Dahl, Lauren Elliott, Alana Fizella, Scarlett Gamez, Anna Harris, Avery Naron, Kelsey Riley, Lila Smith, Gladys Smith, Mia Wood, Rachel Yu, Ashley Zoe, Michelle Zhu. These women are champions at every level, district, region, and state. Congratulations, ladies, on your state championship. The following team from Jamestown is leading the way in academics. Though they weren't able to attend the meeting tonight, I would like to recognize the following students. Carolina Baker, Diego Cordero Muniz, Sebastian Cordero Muniz, Landon Kennan, Tegan Ketterman, Eleanor Rossi. Oh, that was it. That was the team. Congratulations to them. Jamestown's Envirothon team competed against 16 Virginia high schools in the Dominion Energy Envirothon competition. They were tested in 5 categories: wildlife, aquatics, soils, forestry, and a special topic, climate change, and earned first place overall. They will travel to Canada next month to compete against more than 50 teams on the international stage. Congratulations, and we wish them our very best. In rounding out our recognitions for Jamestown, I'd like to invite Athletic Director Matthew Moore to come forward, representing the athletes, coaches, and parents across all of Jamestown's teams. Each year, the prestigious Red Simpson Award is given by Peninsula Sports Club. It's given by the Peninsula Sports Club to acknowledge the best sports program in the Bay Rivers District. With its outstanding athletic year across sports, extracurriculars, and seasons, the 2022-23 Red Simpson Award recipient is Jamestown High School. Congratulations to all Eagles involved in interscholastic competition for earning this prestigious award. And finally, we would like to honor Ms. Rachel Moore, teacher at James Blair Middle School. Ms. Moore, please come forward. Ms. Moore was named 2023 Virginia National History Day Teacher of the Year for her commitment to engaging students in historical learning through the innovative use of primary sources, implementation of active learning strategies to foster historical thinking skills, and participation in the National History Day contest. Ms. Moore was then recognized as one of the top 6 teachers in the national competition. Ms. Moore is quick to credit her achievements to her students, stating, "Without them, I am nothing." Ever the proud teacher, she even has some of her students' work displayed outside. Personally, after serving as a National History Day judge, I know firsthand that students were deeply engaged in and passionate about their projects, and that's a credit to the talented teachers like Mrs. Moore. Congratulations. And last but not least, we would like to recognize a very special guest here this evening, Mrs. Jessie Herron. Mrs. Jessie Herron came all the way from Lisburn, Northern Ireland. She is the mother of 5 children, of whom Dr. Olwen Herron is number 2. Would you please come forward? She also has 10 grandchildren and 6 great-grandchildren. At the young age of 89, she traveled 3,435 miles to be here with us tonight. Mrs. Herron raised a daughter who is thoughtful, kind, intelligent, and a strong leader, and I have a strong suspicion that the apple doesn't fall very far from the tree. Thank you for being here with us, Mrs. Herron.
Wow, what a great way to start the evening. I don't even know how many certificates we just gave out. I did not count them as I was signing them. My hand is cramped. But it's so wonderful to recognize and celebrate so much talent and giftedness. And also thank you, Ms. Herron, for being with us as well this evening. It's a special treat. We'll move on to our item 6.1, public comment for the evening. Turn it over to Ms. Ortega.
It is at this point in our meeting where citizens are invited to address the board. Those citizens desiring to speak have submitted speaker cards to the clerk prior to the start of tonight's meeting. These speakers are asked to come to the podium when their names are called, state their names for the record, and direct their comments to the chair of the board. It is the board's interest and desire that all comments are heard and respected. Hence, the citizens are asked not to engage in applauding, verbal outbursts, or any other type of demonstrations during the presentations. Personnel matters are not considered in public meetings, therefore the board requests that all speakers refrain from making reference to specific individuals in any form or fashion. Though the board does not respond to your comments are heard and appreciated. Each speaker is allocated 1 minute and 30 seconds to make their presentation, and the board asks that you respect this time limitation. Also, please be reminded that no time may be yielded to another speaker. Your acceptance and adherence to these guidelines will be greatly appreciated. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My directions are concluded.
Thank you, Ms. Ortega. Who do we have?
First up is Andrew Kaysen.
Hello, Andrew Kaysen. I'm a teacher at Jamestown and the treasurer of WJCC. Just wanted to briefly comment on the restorative center that was brought up in last May's working session. WJCA supports the creation of the restorative center. However, we do have some concerns. First, restorative practices should be implemented across the division in all buildings. We must see this as a first step in a long journey to dismantle the school-to-prison pipeline. The restorative center can't just be an island of justice in an ocean of inequity. It can't be effective that way. That's why we encourage restorative justice practices be implemented along with the MTSS system in buildings. If we're going to place a student here for a few days or a month or more, what will they be coming back to? So that's something that we need to also focus on. There needs to be a way for students to come back into their buildings and be reintegrated into a community that they may have harmed. So, and that's one of the central tenets of restorative practices that we think we should definitely be following and implement across the division. And it is also a community effort. Right, the restorative justice doesn't just focus on individual punishments. So we also need to be thinking about what time will staff be allowed, staff and teachers be allowed to make sure these students are taken care of while they're separated and so they can integrate back into the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaysen.
Phyllis Eastman.
We are in an asymmetrical battle, a war from within, to change our cultural footprint and wipe out the traditions and beliefs of our founding. One battle is certainly education. While the pandemic was heart-wrenching, partly due to bad policy and lies, one thing that came out of it was parent realization of what was going on in schools. Sexualization of our children in taxpayer schools is wrong and immoral. K through 12 students are minors. Why are sexually explicit books with descriptions and images allowed? Any book put in this system with sexually explicit material should be read in advance by the superintendent, her staff, and each school board member, and they should sign off on that book. The superintendent in Spotsylvania County did just that, and the board removed over 1,200 books from their system. Immediately, there will be an outcry that we're banning books. No, the books were sent to Rappahannock Local Community College, where age is appropriate. Going door to door for elections can also open one's eyes to what's wrong. One parent shared that a teacher in elementary school was teaching multiple genders. The student raised his hand and said there are only two sexes. The teacher texted the mother that her son was disruptive in class today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Eastman.
Michael Hosang.
Good evening. Two recent incidents need to be brought to your attention. First, there was an elementary school teacher who wore a rainbow shirt with "Love Wins" on it during a recent band concert. Why was this propaganda from a teacher tolerated in a school? Then a male substitute teacher at a middle school told students as they entered the classroom that he was a she, her that day, and if any student had an issue with this, they would be reassigned to another classroom. If you thought these issues were not in Williamsburg, James City County, please think again. Our children should not be exposed to this in our schools, and I thought it was against school policy for teachers to use their positions to further their ideology. If these teachers hold these or any other personal political beliefs, they should leave them at the door, as most teachers do. On a different note, I had the privilege to tour one of the New Horizons buildings recently, and the executive director asked us to get the information out regarding these facilities. We were able to pass out certificates to those in the culinary students who created Mexican meal for astronauts on the space station. We were also introduced to the Virginia welding champion, who was either this week or last week competing in the national championship, so hopefully he does well there. Now, these facilities are outstanding, and we need to do more in getting the word out regarding the New Horizons program. College is not for every student, and those who can learn a trade while still in high school make themselves very valuable to businesses upon graduation, and we should do everything we can to encourage these career paths. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hosang.
Corey Otstadt.
Hi, my name is Tori Otstadt, and I'm here to talk about the Restorative Center. While the goals of the center seem promising, I'm worried that the school division is putting a Band-Aid over the serious equity issues that exist in the application of discipline throughout the division. The Village Initiative has been producing an equity report for 5 years that shows that, in alignment with state and national trends, minority students are disproportionately affected by expulsions and suspensions. Students with disabilities are also disproportionately affected. It is not that these students are more likely to misbehave or break the rules. Rather, the implicit and explicit biases of staff cause them to notice those behaviors more in Black students, for example, than their white peers. Or those biases make the actions or behaviors of disabled students seem more severe than those of their non-disabled peers. I am also concerned that this initiative is tied to the school division's safety and security goals. Our minority students and students with disabilities are no less safe to be around than their peers, and I worry separating these students out to the center will send that message. I ask the school board to make a commitment to fund training for staff and to follow any recommendations of the Village Initiative to combat any racial gaps and disproportionality in discipline. I am hopeful that the best outcome of the new Restorative Center will be that the school division can no longer ignore the glaring issue of inequity in our discipline practices. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Asta.
Susan Hildum.
Hello, I'm Susan Hildum, speaking for the York, James City, Williamsburg NAACP Education Committee. It has come to our attention that there is a disparity in driver education classes available at the different high schools. Jamestown High School has 8 classes, War Hill has 5, and Lafayette has 2. And Lafayette is the only school that has a waiting list for the classes. It is remarkable that the fewest resources are available to the school with the most disadvantaged and minority students, who likely have the least ability to access this essential training from a private source. And the greatest resources go to the high school, where the students are the least economically disadvantaged. Whether this was done intentionally or not, it looks really bad. We expect that this disparity will be corrected in the coming school year. I have another request to make of this board. I recommend that in your initial guidelines for public comments, you include a warning for parents who have brought their elementary school-age children with them. This is due to the fact that some speakers may present mature material that parents may not want their children to hear. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Hilda.
Jessica Anderson.
Hi, I'm Jessica Anderson. I'm both a parent and employee of WJCC. I just wanted to follow up a little bit on what was just said about the driver education and the lack of equity for Lafayette High School. I agree that me, myself, having a student there, the fact that we have to go and, purchase a class outside of the school division because she's not able to get on the class off of the wait list, while other schools have far more classes accessible to them is a concern. And like the previous speaker said, that this is a concern because we are talking about the least, the most needed people in the division right now with high school needing that access. I also wanted to talk about the Restorative Center. I think that some previous speakers have spoken really well on it, but I also wanted to address the fact that this needs to start in the elementary level. I see a huge lack of resources in our elementary schools, and adding those resources into the classrooms, into the division as a whole, is going to de-escalate the situations needed in middle and high school. I don't think we're going to see the need that we see right now, and I also think we're going to miss the window if we're waiting until middle and high school. We are, at Matthew Whaley, we have behavioral issues, we have academic issues, and we need more hands on deck. So I really think that's something that needs to be touched on, and maybe that would make the flow into the middle and high school a little less severe. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson.
That was it.
Thank you to all of our speakers that came out this evening and contributed to this meeting. We'll move on to item 7, our consent agenda. Bear with me as I do a bit of reading here. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Item 7.1, approval of financial report and monthly bills and payroll for May 2023. 7.2, approval of minutes from May 16th, 2023. Approval of minutes from June 6, 2023. Item 7.4, approval of revisions to IGAH, Family Life Education. 7.5, approval of revisions to policy IGAJ, Driver Education. 7.6, approval of revisions to policy INB, Teaching About Controversial Issues. 7.7, approval of revisions to policy ECABA, Employee Identification Badges. 7.8, approval of revisions to policy GBACCA, Bullying Prevention Training. 7.9, approval of creation of policy GBB, Prohibition of Abusive Work Environments. 7.10, approval of revisions to policy GBEA, Drug-Free and Alcohol-Free Workplace. 7.11, approval of revisions to policy JEA, School Attendance. 7.12, approval of revisions to policy JEC, School Admission. 7.13, approval of revisions to policy JED, Student Absences, Excuses, and Dismissals. Finally, 7.14, approval of revisions to policy JFC, Student Conduct. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Ms. Donner, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Can I say?
Ms. Ortego,
Yeah, I do have one comment and then a brief question related to 7.04 Family Life Education. First of all, I wanted to say for anyone, just wanted to reiterate for any viewing public from last time that I had brought up a question about some of the language and said that it was different from the code. The code had in fact been changed just a few weeks before that meeting, and the version that we had in our VDOE guidelines was outdated, so that was in fact code language. I do have one quick clarifying question though, since we were focused on new language. If I could just ask what an example is or a difference between major curriculum changes that will be subject to curriculum review procedure and minor curriculum adjustments that would be made without approval. Just what are examples of those and who makes those changes?
I think Ms. Ford is making her way to the microphone to respond to that one. Thank you, Robin.
Yes, good evening. So a minor change may be something such as if a worksheet, if a teacher decided to redesign a worksheet that was part of the approved instructional materials that the Family Life Community Involvement Team has already looked at. We're constantly trying to revise our materials so that they are more engaging for our students, or perhaps switching a paper worksheet to an electronic form that the students or the class could use with their device. So it's not changing the nature or the content necessarily of the activity that the student's involved in. The Family Life Community Involvement Team will be convened twice a year to consider any substantial curriculum changes that would be proposed, such as maybe the addition of a new resource or a new teacher guide, a new article that might be appropriate to the age level and the standard that the teacher is trying to address.
I guess it's just very undefined what would fall under minor curriculum adjustments. And if there's a review committee that meets twice a year, it seems like those, if you know, throughout the course of a year, a teacher realizes this would be better if it was a digital format, that could easily go through the review committee as well.
Yes, it could. And because everything will be housed in one location and the paper copies maintained in our schools, our teachers who deliver family life education will be working closely with Mr. Ottstadt, our K-12 health and PE coordinator, to make sure that everything is available for families and that he is very aware of all of the materials that we are using.
Right. But if a minor change is made mid-year and someone has already reviewed it, they wouldn't know that that minor change has been made, correct?
Not if it was a minor change, no ma'am.
Okay. I guess that it does cause me some concern with the fact that it's undefined. And it seems to make the review process, which is pretty robust right now, and we've, a lot of great recommendations, and the review committee is meeting quite often. I wonder if all adjustments should go through that committee.
Ms. Ford, can I just clarify, as you've talked about policy and regulations, is there any additional information to provide more to differentiate between major and minor, or is that something we might need to add to the regulation?
That is something that we could certainly consider defining for a regulation related to this policy, yes, but we have not, the committee did not reach a point where we were defining major versus minor curriculum changes, but the committee will be reconvening again in September, so we could certainly put that on our agenda at the time.
Ms. Hardy, if you'd be comfortable with that, we can bring the regulation. I know we'll have 2 board members represented on that team and committee, and so there'd be an opportunity to discuss the major and minor and maybe create more clarity with board member input as well.
Okay.
So as I understand it, the committee is still at work, and what Ms. Ortego has brought to our attention will be included in their work. It won't prevent us from continuing on this consent agenda this evening.
Yes, sir, because that would
Okay.
this wouldn't affect the policy.
Right. Okay, great. Any others? Thank you for that, Ms. Ortega. Ms. Aller?
Mrs. Donner.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mrs. Ortego.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. All right, we'll move on to item 8.1, approval of personnel actions. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve personnel actions as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Donner. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Beers. Ms. Aller?
Mrs. Donner.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mrs. Ortego.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. On to item 8.2, approval of additional employee not listed in previous personnel actions. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to appoint Sarah Dow to the position of teacher health/PE at Lois Hornsby Middle School, effective 8/21/2023.
Thank you, Ms. Donner. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hundley. Any discussion? If there is, we'll give an opportunity. I heard a pause there. I do have a statement to read. It does say, "Dear school board members, pursuant to," I am really hot today, "pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3119, subsection E, I certify that I had no involvement with the hiring decision of my wife," who shares the same name. Okay, so that's my statement. Again, open it to the board for any discussion or comments.
Mr. Dahl, I also have a statement to make on the proposed hiring this evening. Dear school board members, pursuant to VA Code 2.2-3119, subsection E, I certify to the remaining members that the employment of Sarah Dowell is based upon merit and fitness and the competitive rating of the qualifications of the individual, and that no member of the board had any involvement with the hiring decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hare. All right. Going twice. Ms. Aller?
Mrs. Donner.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mrs. Ortego.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
And Mr. Dowell.
I abstain from this. Thank you. Item 8.3, approval of request to purchase 10 school buses from Sunny Merriman, Inc. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the purchase request for 10 school buses from Sunny Merriman Incorporated in the amount of $1,401,588.
Thank you, Ms. Hummel. Is there a second?
Second.
I think that was Ms. Ortego.
Yep.
Thank you, Ms. Ortego. You two sound too much alike. You need to sit right next to each other. All right, so we have a second on the motion. Any discussion? This is for the purchase of and replacement of 6 53-passenger buses and 4 77-passenger buses. All right, if there's nothing further, Ms. Aller?
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley. Mrs. Ortego.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. Item 8.4, approval of purchase request for temporary classroom trailer site work at Stonehouse Elementary School.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the purchase request to Centennial Contractors under annual contract number 21-14760 for temporary classroom trailer site work at Stonehouse Elementary School in the amount of $252,800.
Thank you, Ms. Ortego. Is there a second for this motion? Thank you, Dr. Beers. Any discussion? Ms. Aller?
Mrs. Ortego.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. Item 8.5, somebody keep me on track. We're on 8.5, right? Okay, thank you. 8.5, approval of request for purchase to Ever-Driven Technologies and associated budget transfer. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the purchase request to Ever-Driven Technologies and the associated budget transfer under cooperative contract number R190401 with Omnia Partners for a total amount not to exceed $1,200,000.
Thank you, Ms. Ortego. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Hundley, I think. Thank you, Ms. Hundley. Again, open for discussion. So just as a reminder, and really more for transparency's sake, the transfer request is for $550,000 from transportation salaries and benefits to contractor services, and the remaining funding is budgeted within the transportation operating budget and allocated under the ARP funding grant, $400,000. Ms. Aller?
Mrs. Ortego.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. On to item 8.6, approval of a budget transfer request. This in the amount of $300,000. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the budget transfer request from instruction to operations and maintenance in the amount of $300,000.
And is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Hummel.
Second.
Ms. Hundley, thank you. All right. Again, open to discussion, questions, queries. This came to us in our last meeting as it became clear that utility costs were rising above our ability to meet those costs with our current budget. So here we have a transfer. Ms. Aller?
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mrs. Hundley.
Aye.
Mrs. Ortega.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. All right, item 8.7, approval of the 23-24 federal program grant applications for Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV. May I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the 2023-2024 federal program grant applications for Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Hundley. May I have a second on this motion? Thank you, Dr. Beers. Again, open for discussion. So I want to thank everybody that's involved in putting together all of these grants that I have the privilege of signing this evening after our meeting. Don't want to get ahead of the work, so I will do it after the meeting. Ms. Aller?
Mrs. Hundley.
Aye.
Mrs. Ortega.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. 8.8, approval of authorization for VHSL memberships for the 23-24 school year.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the authorization of VHSL membership for Jamestown, Lafayette, and War Hill High Schools for the 2023-2024 school year as presented.
And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you both. Just as a reminder, the cost budgeted for each high school, looking at Lafayette, $4,493, War Hill, $4,445, and Jamestown, $4,680, based on current student participation, from what I gather in our last meeting. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Aller.
Mrs. Hundley.
Aye.
Mrs. Ortega.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. 8.9, approval of revisions to the 23-24 Student Code of Conduct. May I have a motion for this item?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the revisions to the 2023-24 Student Code of Conduct as presented.
And is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Hundley? I've just got to look at you when you speak. I'm sorry. Thank you for that. The motion and the second. Any discussion on the Student Code of Conduct before we set to approve it? Again, just want to thank everybody, the review committee that does its work to put forward revisions to the Student Code of Conduct, and board members. I don't know if we had a board member that was a part of this committee. I don't think so. No. No. Okay. All right, Ms. Aller.
Mrs. Ortega.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mrs. Hundley.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. Item 8.10, approval of purchase request for weapons detection system.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the purchase request for a weapons detection system from Communications Technologies Incorporated in the amount of $109,712.
Thank you, Ms. Ortega. Is there a second?
Second.
That was Ms. Hummel. Okay. Thank you. Any discussion on this item? Ms. Aller.
Mrs. Ortega.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye.
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mrs. Hundley.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. Then approval of appointment of VSBA voting delegate and alternate delegate.
I move to approve the appointment of the chair and vice chair to serve as VSBA voting delegate and alternate delegate at the VSBA Delegate Assembly in November 2023.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Hundley? Anybody want to go in my place? No, I'm happy to do it. Thank you for allowing me. And Ms. Ortega. Ms. Aller?
Ms. Hummel.
Aye.
Mrs. Hundley.
Aye.
Mrs. Ortega.
Aye.
Dr. Beers.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye.
Mr. Dowell.
Aye. Happy to do it. All right. Thank you all for that work. We'll move on to Item 9.1, we have a presentation, I believe, from the Career Ready Advisory Committee for an annual report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Walter will start off the presentation this evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Dr. Herron, and members of the board. It is my pleasure to present to you tonight a summary of the Career Ready Advisory Committee annual report for the 2022-2023 school year. Here with me tonight to share is Ms. Susan Bowe, the Career Ready Advisory Committee Chair. We present this information to you tonight on behalf of the 27 members of the committee. The committee members, comprised of community representatives from a wide range of industries, parents, students, and WJCC teachers and staff, are excited about all of the work that has been completed this year. This work included both programming and opportunities that have grown from previous years and some that are new to WJCC this year. All of this is key to the continued growth of our CTE programming and in experiences and opportunities for our students. Two new opportunities held this year were the Career Connections Fair and Health Careers Day. The first annual Career Connections Fair, held in February, in partnership with 45 local employers, highlighted their work-based learning opportunities, as well as full-time career opportunities for graduating seniors. It is estimated that over 150 WJCC 10th through 12th grade students attended this event with their families. Health Career Days was held in April this year in partnership with Centera Williamsburg Regional Hospital. Through this opportunity, close to 60 students in grades 10 and 11 were able to tour 6 different hospital departments, including biomedical engineering, the emergency department, and surgery services. Students were also able to hear from a panel of experts about different careers in the field. Within the annual report, you will find a list of accomplishments earned by CTE students and staff this year. WJCC and the Advisory Committee are proud of all of the students and staff and recognize the hard work that took place to earn these recognitions. The Advisory Committee is also excited about the growth of middle school elective opportunities beginning next school year with the addition of 6 new CTE courses for 7th and 8th grade students. The Advisory Committee has held thorough discussions related to how we can continue to grow not only in our CTE programming, but also in our partnerships within the community. These conversations have helped further develop and enhance opportunities such as the mock interview event and the employment event, and have also led to planning for future programmatic growth. As shared in the report, the Advisory Committee recommends WJCC continue to expand their network of local employers to further build career partnerships and opportunities for students. A full list of key activities and accomplishments and recommendations are available to you through the annual report. I thank you for allowing us the time to share these highlights with you tonight, and we are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. From the board, any questions or comments?
Well,
Ms. Hummel?
I just want to thank you for all your work. When I look through the committee, it's such a wide and diverse group of people in our community. So it's just, this is what public school is all about, right? Like reaching out to all of these different community members, bringing them all together to help provide great opportunities for our kids. So thanks. Thanks for being on the committee. Thanks for this report. I really appreciate it.
Ms. Ortega?
Yeah, I just want to say that I've always been impressed by this committee. I served on it briefly for my first year. But just everything I've seen presented, the opportunities that our kids have through the work that this committee has done, I think is really ahead of the curve and the future of education for our kids. So thank you.
Yeah, Ms. Donner.
As serving on the committee, it's just been wonderful to see how the community comes together right on an afternoon where folks are busy, but they come from work or they dial in, and to have the conversations and just the real passion that these adults in the community have around our children and trying to figure out how to help them get into the careers that these folks are in and that they feel passionate about. So just hats off to what you have done with the committee.
I echo it all, and I just want to say thank you for the work that you guys do. I love hearing that, beginning with our 7th and 8th grade students, the program's expanding, the CTA program's expanding for 7th and 8th grade, and then you can see the maturation of the program as you talk about our seniors getting full-time employment who not quite ready for college, or just say, you know what, I'm ready to just go to work, and so provide them that opportunity. I really appreciate the report and the work that you all do. Thank you so much.
And I guess I should chime in as a wife of a CTE teacher. Looks bad. And I know he's taking a course now for this new class, and they got a box with all these great little gadgets in there. I was like, what is this? What is this? And he said it's for my new training. So I'm looking forward to hearing how that new course goes for the students.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll move on to our Student Advisory Committee Annual Report. Ms.
Thank you, sir. Ms.
Cummings.
Bourgeois, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Dr. Herron. I'm here tonight to share some background on the Student Advisory Committee. It is made up of 4 students from each high school, representing every grade level at the school, and they met 4 times this year. It is an opportunity for board members to hear from students and to get insights from that specific lens. So our board members really enjoy that time. There were a variety of topics discussed at the meetings this year to include, they did work on their committee bylaws that were later approved and updated. They discussed tier times. Mr. Weaver came and they had a conversation about security and talked about what students can do to help support keeping their schools safe. There was conversations about attendance and curriculum and school culture. They also, at the last meeting in April, made recommendations about things to consider for next year's committee work. And those include increasing awareness of honors projects for high school students, ways to increase mentoring opportunities for our high school students to work with our elementary students, and to look at the weighting of honors classes. So we already have 3 topics for next year. And that concludes the report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Again, I open it up to the board for questions or comments. Ms. Donner, please.
No questions, but again, a committee that I got to serve on my first year on the board, and to be in the room with these teenagers who have fantastic ideas and have insights that, you know, as an adult, you're like, why didn't I think of that? That is so obvious. And really just hearing things from their perspective is just a gift. So really excited and can't wait to meet the next batch of students who will fill out this committee next year.
Yes, I too got to serve on that committee, and I know I went to the honors projects, the dissertations is what I call them. There were 13, and so I know some of the students did say that just how to get that information out. A lot of them, I remember, talk about they would rather have it come through Instagram. So just so that there's a lot of things that if you hang it up, they don't see it, but something about Instagram or Twitter will increase their awareness of some of these nice things.
You both. All right. Again, thank you, Ms. Bourgeois, for the report. It is a wonderful committee, and I think the students get a lot out of it too, being able to speak their voice. So thank you.
Great opportunity.
Thanks for giving them the opportunity.
Thank you.
All right. Item 9.3, Special Education Advisory Committee has an annual report this evening.
Dr. Bryan is going to introduce the SEAC chair this evening.
Good evening, Chairman Dow, members of the board, and Dr. Herron. Tonight it's my pleasure to introduce Ellen Plaskin, SEAC Chair. Over the past 2 years, we have seen an increase in SEAC membership, citizen participation, and the development of opportunities to support WJCC parents of students with disabilities, such as our Critical Decision Points parent workshop back in January. Additionally, SEAC has reached a quorum during each meeting of the 2022-23 school year. Ms. Plaskin's leadership as the SEAC chair has been instrumental in this growth. At this time, I'll turn it over to Ms. Plaskin for the report out of the SEAC annual plan.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. It was my privilege this year to serve as the chair on the Special Education Advisory Committee, or as it's affectionately known, SEAC. Our primary goal is to advise the school board on the needs of students with disabilities, but we also communicate with parents about resources available in our schools and provide support for families with students in special education programs. I want to start by mentioning some awards and recognition this year. We had some exciting
awards for committee members. In March, our student member, Cora Smith, was recognized at the annual meeting of the Council for Exceptional Children in Louisville, Kentucky. She was one of 11 students nationwide receiving a Yes I Can award for her advocacy for students with disabilities. Additionally, our Parent Resource Coordinator, Dr. Rick Baumeister, applied for a grant from the VDOE to develop an orientation program designed to provide extra support for students with special needs during their transition to middle school. He received the grant and has begun offering the new orientation program this spring, so we're really excited about that. A few updates on our goals. Of central importance to our committee is the idea of inclusion, making sure our students with disabilities are an integral part of their communities. That's why our committee's first goal is to continue to monitor the effectiveness of inclusive practices in our schools and to look at best practices for inclusive education. This year we were excited to receive the results from the division's first inclusive audit. In the coming year, SEAC will work with the division as it implements the recommendations that came from the audit, including the development of a robust and consistent peer mentoring program throughout the district. Currently, there are various programs around the division to pair students in special education with their peers, but the practice is not consistent across schools, and we look forward to expanding opportunities for interaction and friendships to develop between our students with disabilities and their peers. Another finding from the inclusive audit was the need for more parent education about the special education process. It's overwhelming. This need coincides with our committee's second goal to raise awareness of such resources. To this end, we supported the creation of a new quarterly newsletter for parents from the Special Education Department. And as Dr. Brown mentioned, in January, SEAC worked with the division to organize a training opportunity for all families of special education students. The Virginia Department of Education presented a day-long workshop on critical decision points in special education. The workshop was well attended and well received. We hope to offer similar opportunities to parents in the division next year. We have also worked this year to raise awareness about the experiences of students with disabilities. We presented a list of more than 50 books to the Director of Media and Information Technology in order to request materials that increase representation of children and adults with disability in school library collections. During Disability Awareness Month in March, 3 SEAC members participated in a panel discussion on disability awareness, sharing their experiences in a compelling way to help others understand the value of creative and meaningful special education. It was a really special night. If you're able to attend, I hope that we'll do something similar next year as well. After a member raised concerns about the current high school grading policies and their impact on students with disabilities, a grading subcommittee was formed. Subcommittee members collected research findings on grading and developed a list of considerations for the board as it examines the current grading policy. These are the recommendations from our report. First, the committee recommends that the school board continue to place a priority on inclusive practices for students with disabilities and provide support for the recommendations developed as a result of the district's inclusive audit, including the development of a robust district-wide peer mentoring program and increased opportunities for family engagement. We respectfully request that the board take our suggestions into consideration when changes to the grading policy are discussed. The committee requests continued support from the board for raising awareness of disabilities in the division's special education programs during Disability Awareness Month each March. And we request assistance with raising awareness of our committee and the work that we do, especially our monthly meetings and parent education sessions that we plan throughout the coming year. The SEAC would like to thank our board representative, Ms. Kimberly Hundley, for supporting our ongoing efforts, always asking good questions, always wanting to be there when something's going on. We appreciate you. We also thank Dr. Herron, Dr. Brown, Dr. Rick Bowmaster, and the Special Education Department for their support of SEAC this year. It's really been amazing how much I think we've been able to accomplish with their help. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I apologize, I missed your name.
My name is Ellen Plaskon.
Blackson, it's good to meet you. Thank you for being here and for your report and for the recommendations that you bring to the board as well. I want to offer this opportunity for the board to ask any questions, make any comments?
I don't have any questions, just comments. I have enjoyed serving my 2 years. It's so exciting when you go, put in the work, get the work done, and see the fruits of your labor, and we have done that this whole year. And it was under your leadership as well, and I want to thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate the recommendations you bring to the board. Certainly, as throughout the year, we're constantly reviewing policies. We want to keep your committee abreast of what we're hearing and seeing, recommendations brought to us from staff. We always like to bounce those off SEAC as it relates to those special students. So again, thank you for the work that you do and the partnership that you bring to the division. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Dr. Brown, excuse me, Dr. Brown.
Thank you so much.
Okay, move on to item 10.1. Review revisions to the school board standard operating procedures. There was, we had a retreat not too long ago, and I'm thankful that the entire board was able to participate, including Dr. Heron, to provide some keen insight into why we do certain things and, you know, how we can navigate new waters with some revisions. There were some revisions that collectively we agreed that were necessary and appropriate. I believe you've had an opportunity to review those revisions. For the viewing public and listening public, there was one in particular revision that the board did agree to, which was, and it pushes us on to policies 11.1 and 11.2. We'll just move along here. Review of revisions to policy BDDH, public participation at school board meetings. This was discussed with interest at our retreat, and we found agreement that based on the level of participation for public comment in our work sessions, and to let you know that we had one speaker in our work session this calendar year, that it was prudent to remove public comment from our work session, really following suit with what our city and county supervisors do during their work sessions, and leave it as a work session, but then also add 30 seconds to our public comment for our regular meetings. And so that was discussed as a part of our standard operating procedure work session, and that's what we see here in policies 11, or item 11.1 BDDH. And as we move there, I want to open this part up to discussion for our board. As you see the red lines here, speaker will be, for BDDH, speaker will be required to limit their presentation to a maximum of 2 minutes, and what's stricken out there is 1 minute and 30 seconds, adding 30 seconds to the regular meeting. And also in BDDH, striking out public participation during the work sessions. That's BDDH. And then item 11.2, policy BDDC, just identifies or provides the outline as it is for the work session. And you see item 5, striking citizen comments from the work session. That's what we discussed. We had unanimous agreement on that, and just looking around the board to see if we're still satisfied with that. Okay, all right. And that takes us to item 12.1, board member comments. I'd like to start to my right, Ms. Donner. Can we begin with you?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. It has been wonderful to participate in all of the graduation and end-of-year festivities over the last few weeks. Having a child in the school system, Thursday was a hard day. She came off the bus in tears. She said the whole bus was crying. The bus driver was crying. They were all just so sad to part ways. And so I think that is just a testament to some of the wonderful things that are happening in our school division when your child is literally crying that school is ending. I also grant she's in a rising fourth grader, so I know that changes as they get older, but at least in the elementary school, it was wonderful to hear that. I want to just say congratulations to all of our graduates. That has been a long road of 12 years of education, and so proud of all that you're doing and what you will move on to do in your lives. And we can't wait to claim you when you reach the great heights that you're going to reach as having come through WJCC. I did want to make a comment on one of the things that we just voted on, item 8 for the purchase request for temporary classroom trailers at Stonehouse. You know, we keep talking about these temporary trailers, and the definition of temporary is that it is for a limited period of time and not permanent. And I haven't seen any of the trailers disappear on any of our school campuses. And so I just kind of ask us as a community, as a board, we have put through in the CIP numerous times that we need additional elementary schools, and for a variety of reasons that has not come to fruition. I think that we still need to continue to ask ourselves, when will we build an elementary school so that we don't have to keep adding trailers? I commend the superintendent and her senior staff that figures out how do we continue to house and educate children, but I also think that they deserve to be in a building that supports them in their learning. And so, when do we move from these permanent trailers and, we call them learning cottages to kind of put lipstick on it, but I think it's putting lipstick on the pig, is that they are in trailers. And so that is just something I kind of propose to us as folks in the community and taxpayers as to where and how do we want to, what messages do we want to send to our children about education. And those are my comments.
Thank you, Ms. Donner. Ms. Hundley?
Yes, I have a couple comments. One of the speakers, well, a couple of them talked about driver's ed, and I just wanted to say I also experienced that having 2 children at Lafayette. Once they turn 15, 6 months, or 16, or whatever that is, they're ready to go. They want their license, and it's really hard. We both, we had to have outside services. We had to pay outside services for both of our children so that we could get there. So I would appreciate it if we could look into that. Also, Head Start. I went to Head Start's graduation. Oh, my goodness. They had caps and gowns on, but the little girls had, like, prom dresses. They were so cute, and the boys were so handsome with their bow ties. But there is going to be registration now for any viewing audience out there that need Head Start services for their child. Registration's getting ready to open up. The graduations, as we were coming through here, there was a little hazard here on the floor, and I said, oh, we don't want to trip and fall, and people think that we did that, on purpose, because the high schoolers do flips, and Dr. Heron, I found out that little shuffle is called the gritty dance, and so I like that better than the flips. But the one thing that I really liked was JHS, Jamestown, has this thing where the principal goes, heartbeat, and all the kids know that, and they all clap twice, and then he goes, let's go to work. And as you can see, with all the awards, they go to work. And then War Hill had that one school, one vision, one pride, and the kids all just say that. And then LHS, every RAM, every day. And to have the freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior students come up and reflect on their 4 years, I think all of them unanimously say, we made it through COVID. We made it. And it was just resonated through all of them. And that just brought warm pride to me, because I know we worry. We sit in these seats here, and we all care about children. And you sit in those seats there, and you care about children as well. And what's more important to me is those children that are in the seats in all of our schools, because they have a silent voice, and sometimes we don't hear. But to hear that they say, we made it, and we're okay, and we think we're going to be okay, and we're ready to take on our next journey, did my heart well, and it makes me proud to sit here knowing that we did that. We were part of that. And that's my comments.
Thank you, Ms. Hundley. Dr. Beers?
Yeah, I have just really three areas I'd like to make a comment on. First of all, I very much want to recognize the academic and athletic excellence of so many of our students. And also, I don't want to leave out the fact that a number of our bands and our orchestras also have performed admirably and picked up a lot of recognitions and prizes in their competitions as well. So it's a pretty well-rounded academics, athletics, and the arts. I can't tell you how much I really appreciate seeing that. The other thing the other comment I wanted to make was I attended the retirement dinner in recognition of our teachers and staff who are retiring, and was once again amazed at how many of our teachers and staff have been here for as long as they have. They're really part of our community, and we can't thank them enough. And I just wanted to give them one more shout out before they go into retirement. That we very much appreciate all that they've done. And graduation was special for me this year. As I've said before, when I see students walking across the stage at Lafayette, Jamestown, War Hill, I feel pretty good about it in the sense that we're going to be in good hands as these students mature, get into the workforce, go to college, whatever they end up doing. They've had an extraordinary education here, and they're going to take it with them. And I'm really hopeful seeing that every year. It's particularly special to me because this will be the last high school graduation ceremony that I will attend as a member of the school board, and I very much have always appreciated the opportunity to do that. And again, one more shout out for those three committees and their reports. It just points out once again how the schools, the parents, students really come together on a pretty regular basis, trying to make this place, trying to make our school system as good as it possibly can be. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Beers. Ms. Hummel.
It's kind of hard to follow you, Dr. Beers. That was very eloquent, along with my other school board members, so I don't have a lot to say or add other than my observation that graduation was really fun. But when we had the students, all those students show up, and then I'm realizing school's out, and they're still coming to a school board meeting. So that was when school's out. So I was really impressed with that, not only for all of their accomplishments, but that their parents and themselves, they got here all dressed and presented and to get a piece of paper from us, thanking them for all of their hard work. I also wanted to touch on the driver's ed. Again, I had to pay for 3 of my children to go through driver's ed at Lafayette High School. I know we've got a situation where we've got Lafayette's the smallest school, and I realize that, and I realize that's why certain things happen, and I don't know what the real situation is. I never do, but I will ask the superintendent if she could look into this and just see why, because I mean, we could afford to pay, and it was okay, but there are a lot of students who can't, who don't have the choice. So I would just appreciate us having a little equity in that area for good old Lafayette Rams. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hummel. Ms. Ortega?
Yeah, I just want to offer congratulations to everyone for making it to the end of the school year. Teachers, students, staff, parents. Maybe this is now the beginning of the hard part of the year for a lot of parents, but we made it to the end of the school year. Graduation was very fun, and there's a lot of pomp and circumstance in the month of May and into June, and just a lot of fun and excitement. And congratulations to all the hard work. It's, of course, the students do the work, but there's so many people behind them. It does take a village to get just even one student graduated. There's teachers, there's mentors, and of course parents, families, And so there's just a lot of people that contribute to the success of our students. And yeah, congratulations to all the honorees tonight. We certainly do have a school division that gets recognized in a broad range of academic and extracurricular subjects, and it's something that we can really be proud of and continue to improve. I know that especially the CTE committee, and that's sort of, I think, increasingly the way of the future. Not to abandon higher education, but just to broaden the opportunities and the scope of what's out there, and what, not just opportunities for the kids, but what our community needs. We need people to do all kinds of meaningful and important work. And so I'm proud that our school division is at the forefront of that. And I think that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Ortego. Again, thank you to all of our speakers that came out to lend your voice to this process, to the eventual discussions that we'll have and continue to have. To all those that gave a presentation, a report, thank you as well for all of your steadfast work. Graduation was a lot of fun. Ms. Donner, your daughter's rising fourth grader, rising fifth grader?
Rising fourth.
Rising fourth grader. Emotional at the end of a school year. I think it depends on the student. My daughter's a rising senior, and she was at the War Hill graduation, and she and her friend were bawling their eyes out. So I think it just depends on the student. Maybe it just never goes away for some. But I think that is a testament to the vision that we have, and the hard work from Dr. Herron and your senior leadership team, and everybody that falls into place, down to our custodial workers and cafeteria workers, everybody that really cares for and shows empathy and compassion for our students. It is felt. It is felt and is recognized, and it's very special. I think I'll end on that note. Thank you. No, I want to say one more thing. One more thing. Thank you to this board. Just reflecting on, yeah, a little clunky with the recognitions, but thank you for joining me with that, Ms. Hummel. But this is a fantastic board, and I appreciate the work that you do. I so much appreciate the work that you did 2 weeks ago to get us to this point where we could wrap up in just a little over an hour and a half, a 5-hour rally of a meeting. Thank you, Ms. Ortego, for allowing me to take care of my family in very short notice. I appreciate you stepping in that way. But this is a fantastic board, and I appreciate every single one of you. And you, Dr. Herron. Thank you, too. With that, move on to item 13, upcoming events. Just one. Policy Committee meeting on July 12th. It's our workhorse of a committee at 8:30. That's going to be a virtual meeting. And then July 11th, upcoming, that was under events, I apologize, upcoming meetings now. Closed session followed by work session and action items on July 11th, 3:30 and 4:30 respectively in room 300. And then on August 1st, closed session followed by work session and action items, again at central office room 300, 4 and 4:30. Okay. If I forgot something, it's too late. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you.